The first time I saw him, he was leaning against the rusted railing of the town's old bridge, his silhouette sharp against the dying orange of a Virginia sunset. My heart stuttered, not just because of his broad shoulders or the way his dark hair caught the light, but because of the way he looked at the world like he was searching for something he'd lost. I was 16, too young to know what love was, but old enough to feel it clawing at my chest. Elliot Harper wasn't like anyone in our small town of Willow Creek. He was the new kid, the one who'd moved from Chicago with a leather jacket and a smile that could unravel you. I was just Jamie Sullivan, the quiet boy who spent too much time sketching in the library, hiding behind oversized sweaters and a nervous laugh. But when Elliot's eyes met mine that day on the bridge, something shifted. It was like he saw the version I showed the world, but the one I buried deep, the one I was terrified to let out. I didn't know then that loving him would break me open, or that he'd be the one to piece me back together. By senior year, I'd learned to watch Elliot from a distance. He was the star of the soccer team, the guy who could charm anyone with a grin and a quick joke. Everyone loved him, girls, guys, teachers, even the grumpy diner owner who never smiled. But I noticed things others didn't, like how his laugh never quite reached his eyes when girls flirted with him, or how he'd linger in the locker room, his gaze flickering toward me before he'd look away. I'd always known I was different. Growing up in Willow Creek, where everyone knew your business and church was a second home, being gay wasn't something you shouted about. I'd spent years perfecting a mask softening my voice, wearing pastel colors, letting my hair grow out just enough to look pretty. It wasn't just about blending in. It was about survival. My dad, a mechanic with hands like sandpaper, would never understand. My mom, always lost in her gardening, might have tried, but I couldn't risk it. So I played the part, Jamie, the gentle, almost girlish boy who didn't make waves. But Elliot, he made me want to drown in them. One October evening, during a bonfire at the edge of town, I saw my chance. The air was thick with smoke and laughter, and Elliot was there, sitting on a log with a beer he wasn't supposed to have. I'd spent an hour picking out my outfit: a light pink sweater, tight jeans, a scarf I thought made me look softer, more like the girls he seemed to notice. My heart was a jackhammer as I walked over, clutching a plastic cup of soda like it was a lifeline. "Hey, Jamie," he said, his voice low and warm, like he'd been waiting for me to show up. His eyes flicked over me, and I swore I saw something spark in them. "You look nice." I blushed so hard I thought my face would catch fire. "Thanks," I mumbled, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear, a gesture I'd practiced in the mirror. I wanted him to see me the way he saw those girls: graceful, delicate, worthy of his attention. We talked for hours that night, about nothing and everything: his old life in Chicago, my sketches, the way the stars looked brighter out here. When he brushed my hand by accident, I didn't pull away. Neither did he. That was the first night I let myself believe he might feel the same way. The next few months were a blur of stolen moments. Study sessions in the library where our knees touched under the table. Late-night walks by the river, where he'd tease me about my scarves, but never stopped smiling. I leaned harder into the role. I thought he wanted more makeup, softer gestures, a laugh I'd practiced to sound lighter. It felt like a performance, but if it meant keeping him close, I'd play it forever. But there were cracks. I'd catch him staring when I wasn't trying so hard, when I was just me, laughing too loud or sketching in my notebook, my guard down. It confused me, made my stomach twist with hope and fear. Did he like the act? Or was it something else? Something I was too scared to name. Then came the night that changed everything. It was February. The air sharp with winter's last bite. We were at his house, sprawled on his bedroom floor, supposedly studying for a history exam. His parents were out, and the silence between us was electric. I was wearing a lavender sweater, my hair pinned back, trying to look perfect for him. He was quiet, too quiet, his eyes tracing me like he was trying to solve a puzzle. "Jamie," he said suddenly, his voice rough. "Why do you do that?" "Do what?" I asked, my heart lurching. He gestured at Mimi's sweater, my posture, the way I was sitting with my legs tucked just so. "This, the whole thing. It's not you." I froze. My mask, the one I'd spent years building, felt like it was crumbling. I thought you liked it," I stammered. "You always said I looked nice." He leaned closer, his eyes fierce and soft all at once. "I do. But not because of this." He reached out, his fingers brushing the scarf I'd tied so carefully. "I like you. The real you. The guy who laughs like a dork and draws better than anyone I know. You don't have to hide anymore." My breath caught. The room spun. He knew. He'd always known. And then he kissed me. It wasn't gentle or hesitant, it was desperate, like he'd been holding it back for years. I kissed him back, my hands shaking as they found his shoulders, my heart screaming that this was real, that I wasn't dreaming. When we pulled apart, his forehead rested against mine, and he whispered, "You don't have to be anything but you, Jamie. Not for me." Tears stung my eyes, not from sadness, but from relief. For the first time, I felt seen, not the performance, not the mask, but me. The boy who loved art and bad puns and, most of all, him. But Willow Creek wasn't a fairy tale. And love, I'd learn, came with a price. The kiss changed everything, but it didn't make the world softer. If anything, it sharpened the edges. Elliot and I were a secret, a fragile thing we guarded like a flame in a storm. Willow Creek wasn't ready for two boys in love, and neither were we. Not really. We found ways to be together. Quiet corners of the library, the old barn at the edge of town, the back seat of his beat-up Chevy after dark. Every touch, every whispered word, felt like stealing something precious from a world that didn't want us to have it. I stopped wearing the scarves, the makeup, the carefully curated softness. Elliot didn't want that version of me. And slowly, I started to believe I didn't either. But shedding that mask wasn't easy. It was like peeling off my own skin. Without it, I felt exposed, raw, like everyone could see the truth I'd spent years hiding. Elliot was braver than me. He'd hold my hand under the table at the diner, his thumb brushing my knuckles like a promise. He'd talk about the future college in a big city, a place where we could walk down the street together and no one would care. "Chicago," he'd say, his eyes bright. "Or New York. Somewhere we can be us." I wanted to believe him, but fear was a heavy thing, and it clung to me like damp clothes. The rumors started in April. It was small at first, whispers in the locker room, sideways glances in the hallways. Someone had seen us together at the river. Too close. Too long. Willow Creek was a small town, and secrets didn't stay buried. I overheard my dad talking to his buddies at the garage one day. his voice low and hard. That Harper kid's trouble. Too city for his own good. I didn't know if he meant Elliot's leather jacket or something else, but it made my stomach churn. I tried to laugh it off when I told Elliot. They're just bored, I said, forcing a smile as we sat in the barn. The air thick with the scent of hay and dust. Nothing better to talk about. He didn't laugh. Jamie, we need to be careful. My dad, he's not like yours. He's got a temper. I didn't ask what he meant. I didn't want to know. But I saw the bruise on his arm the next day. Faint but unmistakable. And my heart sank. Elliot brushed it off. Said he'd fallen during soccer practice. But his eyes wouldn't meet mine. I wanted to scream. To grab him and run somewhere safe. But where was that? Not here. Not in Willow Creek. The breaking point came at the spring festival. The whole town was there, strung with fairy lights and buzzing with music. Elliot and I had agreed to keep our distance, to play it safe. I wore a plain t-shirt and jeans, trying to blend in, but my eyes kept finding him across the crowd. He was with his teammates, laughing, but I could tell it was forced. When he caught my gaze, he gave me a small, secret smile, and my heart ached with how much I loved him. Then it happened. Derek, one of Elliot's teammates, a hulking guy with a mean streak, cornered me by the food stalls. His breath smelled like cheap beer, and his voice was loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. What's with you and Harper? Huh? You his little girlfriend or something? The crowd went quiet. I felt their eyes on me, sharp and judgmental. My throat closed up, but before I could speak, Elliot was there, shoving Derek back. Back off. Man, he growled, his voice low but dangerous. Derek laughed, cold and cruel. What? You defending your boyfriend now? The word hit like a punch. I saw Elliot flinch, saw the fear flash in his eyes before he masked it with anger. I said back off. He repeated, stepping closer. The air crackled with tension, and for a moment, I thought they'd fight. But then Derek's friends pulled him away, and the crowd dispersed, whispering. Elliot grabbed my hand and pulled me behind a tent, his breath ragged. You okay? He asked, his hands cupping my face. I nodded, but I wasn't. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't breathe. They know. Elliot. They all know. Let them, he said fiercely. I don't care. But I did. I cared too much. That night, I went home and locked myself in my room. My dad was still at the festival, but I could imagine what he'd say if he heard. I stared at my reflection in the mirror, the boy I'd tried so hard to hide staring back. I didn't know who I was anymore, not the girlish act, not the quiet kid, not even the boy Elliot loved. I was just scared. The next morning, Elliot showed up at my door, his face pale and his lips split. My dad, he said simply, and I didn't need to ask. I pulled him inside, my hands shaking as I cleaned the cut with a damp cloth. He didn't cry, but his eyes were hollow, like something inside him had cracked. We need to leave, I said, the words spilling out before I could stop them. We can't stay here. He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw doubt in his eyes. And go where? Jamie. We're kids. We've got no money. No plan. Then we'll make one, I said, my voice trembling but sure. I'm not losing you. He kissed me then, softer than before, like he was afraid I'd break. Okay, he whispered. We'll figure it out. Together. We didn't leave right away. Running takes planning. And we were two scared teenagers with nothing but dreams and a beat-up car. But we started saving every dollar from my part-time job at the library. Every cent Elliot earned mowing lawns. We hid the cash in an old coffee can under his bedroom floorboard. Our ticket to somewhere else. Chicago. Maybe. Or San Francisco. Anywhere but Willow Creek. School became a minefield. The rumors had spread like wildfire. And every glance, every whisper, felt like a blade. I stopped sketching in public. Too afraid someone would see the drawings of Elliot I couldn't stop making. He stayed close. His presence a shield. But even he couldn't stop the notes slipped into my locker, cruel words scrawled in angry ink. Freak. Fairy. Wrong. I didn't show them to Elliot. He was already carrying too much. His dad got worse. The bruises were more frequent. And Elliot stopped making excuses. One night, he climbed through my window at 2 a.m. His cheeks swollen and his eyes red. I held him until dawn. My arms wrapped around him like I could keep the world from hurting him. I'm not ashamed of you. He whispered into my shoulder. I'm not. I believed him. But I was still terrified. Not just for him, but for us. My dad had started asking questions. His voice sharp when he mentioned Elliot. You're spending too much time with that boy, he'd say, his eyes narrowing. I lied. Said we were just friends. But the truth was heavy. And I wasn't sure how much longer I could carry it. The plan came together by June. Graduation was a week away. And we had enough saved for bus tickets to Chicago and a cheap motel for a month. It wasn't much. But it was a start. We'd find jobs. Maybe enroll in community college. We'd be free. The night before we were set to leave, we sat in the barn, our hands intertwined, the coffee can between us like a promise. I love you, Elliot said, his voice steady despite the bruise on his jaw. No matter what happens, I need you to know that. I love you too, I said, and for the first time, I didn't feel like I was pretending to be someone else when I said it. But freedom doesn't come easy in a town like Willow Creek. That night, my dad found us. I don't know how must have followed me. Must have suspected. The barn door slammed open. And there he was. His face red with rage. Get away from my son, he roared, grabbing Elliot by the collar. I screamed, lunging forward. But my dad was stronger. He shoved Elliot against the wall, his fist raised. You think you can come here and ruin him? He shouted. Dad, stop. I begged, tears streaming down my face. It's not his fault. It's me. I love him. The words hung in the air, heavy and final. My dad froze, his fist still raised, his eyes wide with shock. Elliot was breathing hard, but he didn't back down. He's telling the truth, he said, his voice calm but firm. And I love him too. For a moment, I thought my dad would hit him. But then his shoulders sagged, and he let Elliot go. He looked at me, his face a mix of anger and something softer grief. Maybe. You're my son, he said, his voice breaking. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't have an answer. All I could do was cry. The next morning, We left. Not running. Not hiding. But walking out of Willow Creek with our heads high. My dad didn't stop us. Though he didn't say goodbye either. My mom pressed a wad of cash into my hand. Her eyes wet but proud. Be safe. She whispered. Be you. Chicago was overwhelming loud. Bright. Alive in a way Willow Creek never was. We found a tiny apartment. 2 jobs at a coffee shop. And a community that didn't look at us like we were wrong. It wasn't easy, money was tight. And the weight of everything we'd left behind lingered. But every night, when Elliot pulled me close and kissed the top of my head, I knew we'd made it. One evening, as we walked along Lake Michigan, the city lights glittering like stars, Elliot stopped and took my hand. You don't have to hide anymore, he said, echoing the words that had started it all. Not from me. Not from anyone. I looked at him, the boy who'd seen me when I couldn't see myself, and I smiled. Neither do you. We weren't perfect, and the world wasn't either. But we were together, and that was enough. In that moment, under the vast Chicago sky, I realized that love wasn't about being what someone else wanted. It was about being brave enough to be yourself and finding someone who loved you for it.